What is going on, fellow Summit Chasers, and welcome to another episode of the Summit Chasers podcast. I am very excited for this guest today. He's actually now a pretty good friend of mine, Mr. John Duffin. He is a voiceover actor and executive coach who focuses a lot on leadership communication, which is absolutely huge, and I'm a big fan of because it's not discussed enough. Your ability to lead is directly related to your ability to effectively communicate. So this is a great episode, and I may be a bit biased, but I can't wait for you to check it out for yourself. A little announcement from us. We'll be officially on a regular episode release schedule now after testing things out for a little while. We'll be launching new episodes every Thursday and Sundays of the Summit Chasers podcast. My beautiful partner has her own podcast she will be launching at the end of this month, which is January. Those will be going live on Mondays. And then our Q&As will be out every other Saturday, starting on Saturday the 13th of January. But enough for me. Sit back, get your notepads out, let us know your takeaways in the comments, and enjoy the show.
I hope you're impressed, man. I got it all dialed up for you.
I know. I feel bad. I need to go. I need to go put on a
No,
polo.
no. I feel like I'm the guest. So, what the heck? Okay, like I said, what's the book off your left shoulder?
Great by Choice by Jim Collins.
Nice.
Nice. Probably.
And I know he's one of your guys, so that's very cool.
He's one of my guys. Although that is not my favorite book by him.
Okay.
It's just the one that it's blue and stands out. My favorite book is this guy, Beyond Entrepreneurship 2.0.
I've heard of it, and you're impressed.
Yeah, extremely. It's
okay.
It's funny because like we can. So there's a guy. What's one of my mentors, Patrick Ben David. He just came out with the book Choose Your Enemies Wisely.
Yeah.
Right? And I was at his business planning workshop in Fort Lauderdale this last weekend, and I mean a lot of that's it's in here. Like a lot of it came from. I mean, I'm not saying it directly came from this. He has a ton of experience and that kind of stuff, but a lot of it came from that. But it's like have like your vision and your mission of what you're doing, of your life, of your business, of the people in your business should be so clear you can see through it, right? So, and a lot of that is it's so well written out with him and Jim Collins and Bill Lazar and in this book Beyond Entrepreneurship. And I think this was his first book that he put out too. Obviously this is 2.0, so it's the 2020 version, but so much of it stood the test of time. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, 20 something years ago. I mean, it wasn't that long, but I mean, in today's world, 20 years is a long time with the right things that change and improve and innovate. So,
oh my gosh, it's when I, like I said, just look back on that timeline. It's like, where was I and what was I doing and what, and a weird question. And what were you worried about 20 years ago? Like, I like to do that in the sense of, and you know, in that what literally had you by the face? Because one of the cool things I get to do, and I know that sounds like a little trippy, but it's more like that sense of, you know, so how did that work out? You know what I mean? And typically the answer is it worked out fine. It worked out fine. You know what I mean? And that's one of these things that, like, when I'm wanting to beat myself up, a 20-year gap ain't a bad one. You know?
No. Well, nothing's ever as bad or as good as we think it is. Like even if it plays out as good as you want it, it's never. I mean, at least for this is. I mean, I'm just speaking for myself. Once I achieve something in your head, you're like, oh, I'm gonna have a crown. I'm gonna sit on my throne. Everything's gonna be amazing. And then I get there and I'm like, okay, what's the next thing?
What's next? Right?
Yeah. What do I do now? Like this is now I'm bored.
Well, Zach, bored. I'm honored and flattered. So whatever you need me to want me to do, I'm great with. So
like we're already doing it. So. I'm probably going to leave this part in too. No, I'm going to do the intro afterwards. I film it separately.
Oh, all right. Got it.
Yeah. Okay, great. So it's something, you know, who knows what's going to come up. I'm going to sell people on why it's going to be so great to listen to this.
I got you. Well, that's okay. And I'm happy. And look, Bob, I'm always happy to help. So yeah, I'm glad to be here. Grateful as hell too.
So I saw some of your ads. So tell me a little bit about, well, first of all, let's start here. A little bit about what you do, because I saw some of your ads coming out. Look good. So what is it? What can somebody expect when they work with you? Because I know there's a few different capacities that people can.
Right. So the key capacity for me is I coach people in a business setting very specifically to be able to present better, to use a combination of my business acumen, my emotional intelligence, and I hate my, right? But what I can bring to the table for somebody is also the sense of being able to speak in a way that commands attention. What the other person gets to bring, whoever I get to work with, is their own best, and I call it their best business voice, which means in this day and age, we're all competing for something. So if it's an entrepreneur, you're competing for your share of voice. You want to be heard amidst all of the clutter. I'll address in a moment the barrage of last minute social media coaching opportunities that have hit the screen. So if you're going to be competing with that crowd, you need to sound as if you belong. In addition to what I get to offer is actually belonging. So when you're in a corporation, so whether if you were young and just getting started, whether it is the big interview or the big sales meeting or the big presentation that you want to close the deal or a seat in the boardroom, it's important that your actual message is heard and understood. What I'm able to do when I coach people is make certain that they're not getting lost in the crowd by the techniques that I use. And that's typically the business experience that I've had over 25 years in broadcast ad sales, plus now over 4 years of my own company, Duffin Media. And that all of that ties to allow somebody to be able to be heard, to not lose their seat if they've been in a company for a while and you're now beginning of the year and people are worried about keeping the seat at the table. I get to help them do so.
I love it. And that's been a big topic for me lately anyways, has been communication, like effective communication.
Yep.
Right. We just did a big workshop in Scottsdale. It's called human interaction technology. And it's how much I see, like there's millionaires in the room.
Yeah.
And they constantly are working on their communication skill. A lot of people don't think it's a skill and something that you can improve on. It's just, this is how I talk, I get my point across, great. But okay, you're getting your point across, but how are these other people hearing it? Right.
See, Zach, I create like the platform is called Your Message Received. And the reason it's called that is simply because you just described it. It's great that you think you sound cool, or this is just me. And I've heard that a lot of times. I'm just me. That's how I go. But that's great. But how is the other person receiving the actual message? Is it your intended message? And so when you're saying that millionaires are improving their communications, I love hearing that, because so often in the corporate landscape, that takes a back seat. And it typically takes a back seat to content. What am I going to say? What do I have to know? What objection? If they say this, then I say that. And that's great. But I don't, and by the way, that presentation and leveraging your voice doesn't replace the content. It doesn't replace the preparation, but you have to land it. You have to be able to land the blow, land the punch, land the plane, whatever cliche you want to go with. Yep. You got to land it. And if you sound unsure or doubtful or lethargic or whatever, that's what people are hearing. Often translated to a lack of confidence, a lack of clarity, a lack of vision. And so you, in essence, get pushed aside. And the whole point is to make certain that you don't.
Absolutely. I liken it a lot to the communication aspect of this. Like you said, you can prepare, you can make notes, you can visualize it in your head, all this kind of stuff, do your research. And then you get put under the lights, so to speak. And your preparation could be a 10, your communication of that preparation could be a 2. So people understand it at a 5, therefore they execute it at a 3. Right. So, and I liken it a lot too. And if anybody hasn't gone and seen John's podcast, go do so right now. We were talking about when I was fighting, it was like you have like your preparation for the fight.
Yep.
You can be, and I knew a lot of people like this. They were amazing in the gym. They're amazing in preparation. Then they got under the lights, and then they didn't do so well. But that's your as a leader, that's your communication is you under the lights. That's your most important part of your job, is the meetings, is the communication, is getting outcomes, providing or getting people to get an outcome. And then you can't get the outcome if you don't communicate the what, the how, and the why appropriately.
Zach, it's people remember or retain the oddest things. And so when I've been in boardrooms and business plans, and I'll give you an example in a moment of one that wasn't as great for me, which is why I realized how important it was to make certain of all of this. But the fact is, they remember something completely random, right? So you think you're breaking your rear end. Oh, I know all of this. I've got this memorized. I got them. And they're thinking literally, oh, he seems nervous. What's he nervous about? Oh, that's weird. He, you know what I mean? He moved his head. Oh, you have zero control over that outcome. So the fact of the matter is, what I'll give you the example. So I remember I'm in a boardroom and it is now time for the annual presentation. I was part of a company and I was working with multiple television markets. And we were presenting to the big Mahavs in their black suits and starched white shirts. I'm weird. This is exactly what I'm wearing. So I guess I thought I was coming to a business plan meeting. But I mean, it was all like the collar buttoned up and you were there. And it was serious business. So the night before, which I never do, it was in New York. I typically show up the night before, check into a hotel, make certain everything is just so, and blah, blah, blah. I had taken my former boyfriend to a concert that he wanted to go to. And I hated every bit of this because it was all against the grain of the preparation and all that stuff. And it went way longer than it was supposed to go. It was someone I had almost zero interest in, but he did. And that God love him. It was, like I said, again, good on him, right? So I've called this story, when I tell the long version, how Barbara Streisand wrecked my business plan. Is it right? So put it on her. But the next morning, I'm at the 3:40 a.m. train thinking I'm going to make this go. I'll be in there with hours to spare. Electrical problems, everything shuts down. And I mean everything, including Wi-Fi. And I'm getting calls from the bosses. Long story short, I show up literally the moment the presentation starts, and I'm a bundle of nerves and jagged edges, and they're asking me basic questions. And while I knew the answers, I'm all like weird. What? We leave the meeting. And it's a business plan meeting, like from a perspective. This is not literally, you're not war generals or you know what I mean? It's like there's a lot more important things that are going on. But I still remember my senior boss saying to me, he's like, yeah, something was weird. You were weird today. Literally, his exact words. You were weird today. So you're thinking of all the technical information that you need to know. And I still knew. And the resolution from the person I really wanted to deliver for was, oh, you were weird today. What's up? People remember that. People remember the oddest, most random things. What we get to do, what I've realized at that moment was, this is why it's like these big moments. Remember the right stuff. Like, remember the story, remember the part. You need to sound like you're authentic, which is the key. You don't want to make up a character here. Your authentic, true best, because people connect with that. And that's, in a way, long before I actually launched the mission, that was literally the launch point. I wasn't going to have Barbara Streisand wreck another business plan for me. So, and if she's listening, yeah, I mean it.
Too funny.
Right? So that's when I knew. And so to this day, it's how can you sound true, right, and authentic? What exactly do you need to know? How exactly do you need to sound to get your truest version of you? That's all you want. Nobody needs to sound like anybody else. It's your best, most true version of yourself.
That's funny, going back to just people remember the weirdest things. Like you can say all these amazing things and they'll come up to you and be like, hey, your collar was off a little bit, or like you were sweating or whatever it was, right? And that's why there's a concept is you want to communicate through the eyes of the observer, right?
Yes.
So there's me and you, or I and you, and then there's the observer, right? You want to communicate through the eyes of the observer, because then I'm paying attention to what I'm doing. Right? How am I affecting the way you're reacting to what I'm saying? And then how are you reacting to the things that I'm saying? And if you're in the eyes of the observer, you can adjust the communication style. It's like, okay, when I say this, he does this, so I need to adjust my communication, right? He seems to be more visual, because every time I every time I say, you know, when you see this thing, he perks up, right? Like all these kind of little things, right? So it's so interesting, because then if you're in that, you would have identified that. Okay, I think I'm sweating a little bit, or I see his eyes go to my
Immediately, or I'm
collar.
moving a little too jerky like, or
Yeah.
I'm not speaking clearly, or I'm not looking at you. And that's when I realized it's like, in a perfect world, in these big moments, and again, this is not replacing the preparation. I'm a massive believer in being over prepared. However, what I really am a massive believer in is you being 100% present when you're in these situations. And a part of it is so you can enjoy the moment, so you can be comfortable, so you don't have to be this rigid, uptight, that you're fully there. People feel that. People hear it, people feel it.
Yeah.
And that's where the results come. This guy's great. Oh my God, that guy, Zach, he's great. Sounded cool. How many big meetings, Zach, I'll ask you, that you've been a part of where you've, like, literally the conclusion was, oh, he's cool.
Oh, I mean, when I was doing keynotes, and
Keynotes,
we
there you
had
go.
you know, it'd be a couple hundred people in the audience,
Right.
and then you'd come and you'd think that, like, oh, you're going to inspire me to go do this, or we're going to go do this now, we're going to implement this, and you know, they're like, hey, I like your shirt, or
Right.
or the way your tone, whatever. It's never, they never hear what you think that they heard, and therefore you're assuming, therefore you're going to get a different outcome.
It's not to mention, these are bridges and gateways to get you the desired outcome, because the fact of the matter is, it is rare that you have to land the big aha moment, and the big aha moment from what you've prepared closes the deal. The companies merge as a result. It's typically, I like you, they're cool, she's cool, he's cool. You know what I mean? It's like they're cool. I want to hear more. The questions then become more on point, because, and I'll use your example, right? I like the shirt. I like the way that he smiled. I like that he sounded confident. Oh, when you were presenting during that keynote, blah, blah, that's how it typically rolls, is what I'm asking of, like, when I'm coaching people, it's to make certain there's a bridge or a gateway. It's most often coming from you, not your bullet points on the slide. Because then I'm going to focus on the bullet points on the slide, and then I'm going to focus on how does this benefit me, and then we can talk specifics. But if you're lost, distracted, lethargic, sounding bored, you know, or so unsure that you're racing through a keynote because you just want to get to the end, so you can literally give your big ta-da, it's like, it ain't gonna work.
100%. You have to lead people, like, it's a path. You have to lead people to where you want them to go, right? And we're complicated beings, so we need our hands held. We need our hands held sometimes, right? Yeah.
And as I said, these are the people that are commanding tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. And their thought is, his shirt's cool. John, you sound weird. You know what I mean? It's like the most random stuff. So if you've got a path, a gateway that I can help you get to, so that all of that content that you've killed yourself to prepare is heard.
Yeah.
Your voice is heard. That's the whole thing. That's, like I said, what I'm doing. That's how it began, which gives me a great deal of satisfaction to do.
Yeah, it clearly does. You're very passionate about what you do.
Yeah.
And one of the things with kind of communication too, that I think a lot of people don't take responsibility for their communication either.
Right.
Like, the outcome's on you, because you can, and you'll never improve it unless you identify this, which is, it's my responsibility to get the outcome. Therefore, I have to communicate in a way that gets the outcome. So I might be talking to somebody who has different experience than me, might have different skills than me, or whatever, different background, right? So what I'm saying might mean something completely different to them. So I have to take responsibility and communicate in a way that gets the outcome from this person. And if I don't do that, then it's on me, because I communicated for me. I didn't communicate for them.
Exactly. And
right?
that's
So
really the whole point, is none of this is communicating for you. It's you, like, I remember from a personal vantage point, I used to very much be a people pleaser. And there's certain times I still am. I've worked on that, where it's like, I just need to make sure you're cool,
mm,
right? Is the most, slang way to say it. If you're cool, then things are great, right?
mm,
So I want to make sure you're happy or you're smiling. Sometimes that works, by the way, right?
mhm.
And sometimes there's an inherent benefit, but you're not authentic,
Yeah.
right? And people feel that. So this is all about having someone express their confidence, have their voice sound as if they understand the story. I'm serving it to you in a way to make certain that you are grasping what's going on without placating you, without people pleasing you,
Mhm.
and without sounding condescending.
I
It's a
love it.
full level, it's a 100% level of engagement. And to me, it just makes me happy when the results come or the clients come back to me. It's to me, that's the passion, that's the mission.
Yeah, it's so frustrating too, because you get
Mhm,
some very intelligent people who
mhm.
are 10 out of 10 intelligent, but
Right.
communicate at a 2,
Yeah.
right? And then therefore
Yeah.
they sound like a whatever the difference is, right? So if you can get them to sound
Right.
like an 8, right,
Mhm,
it's a huge difference in their success and the success of the people around them.
mhm. I'll not only agree, but I also think I know the reason to that, which is most often that it's so under spoke of. Like, so often with high performers you identified, right? That these millionaires that are working on their communications, most people are not, because it is not a priority in their mind. No one is saying it's a priority to them. So just the old adage, just be yourself. Great. But what they don't necessarily need is yourself when you're having a bad day or overwhelmed or
Mhm.
sad, or my computer just crapped out and hey, I'm just being me. Well, that's great, but we're here to deliver results,
Mhm. Mhm.
not just whatever mood happens to walk in to, or the first hard question that you ask me, I either sound scared or put out. And as I'm saying, I think that's the big difference, which is content is, what are you saying? I've worked with real estate companies that are generating hundreds of millions of dollars in transactions, and they're all about the script. You say, if they say that, then you say this, then you say that, and no one is talking about communications. No one. So I think there's this sort of mental block that it's like, no, authenticity means just be me. I'll give an
100%.
example of something that I love, right? So this guy that I'm listening to says literally, what does authenticity mean to me? And he describes it as not just being me, it's your future self. So I loved that. By the way, that was you the other day
Oh,
when I
yeah.
heard that
It's
on
like
social
I think
media.
that's familiar.
Okay, right? Well, I loved it because so often people don't see that bridge or gateway, that you're projecting your real future self, closing the deal, feeling good enough that I'm offering the corporation, the client, the sales team, the board of directors, I'm offering something that you want. You hear it, and then the results come.
Mhm.
And that's to me the best gateway of a future self, rather than, hey, I'm just being me,
Yeah.
which
100.
is almost sloppy. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like that
Mhm.
sense of, oh, well, hey, I'm here. Um,
It's lazy. It's just
it's
lazy.
lazy. It's
It's just lazy.
lazy. And as I say, when that guy, whose name rhymes with Farland, said something effect, it's like, you're an imposter otherwise. I love it. I love it because that's what it is. Lazy imposter. So that's why the work is, to me, you want to elevate, you want to get to a next level business wise. That's to me, it's like, you got the content. Just don't waste all of that time that you spent preparing and just let it, fly out a window because, hey, I'm just being me.
Yeah. It's a waste of
Right.
potential too.
Right.
Like imagine that, like you being so talented in some
Mm-hmm.
things, but the thing that gets in your way is your ability to give it to others, which is communicate it. Like
Mm-hmm.
That's such a shame. And I think there's so many people like that too. Like
Oh
you
yeah.
get like extremely intelligent people. Like if you listen to Elon Musk, like he's not
Right.
the most eloquently spoken guy, but he uses it, but he knows how to use it now. Like he can get his point across. And I think it's just because also just people know him now too. But if he didn't know how to communicate at all like that, which a lot of
Mhm.
people are just as smart as him can communicate
Mhm.
a quarter as good as him, like he wouldn't be as influential as he is now, changing the world like he is now. So
So I would say with an Elon Musk, I don't think he's a good communicator. In fact, I think he's
no.
close to awful. However, you just identified something which I think is really important. You're going to give him the benefit of the doubt simply because of the track record, what you know of him. There may be a very strong predetermined opinion, which is not always a good one. But for those that, with him, it's like, oh, that's just him. So if you are Elon Musk, great, have at it. You do you, right? If you are
100%.
not, and people don't know you as well, they may not be giving you the benefit of the doubt. Look, your friends are gonna,
Mm.
you know, and if they even say, hey, John, you sound weird, your friends are cool with that because they're looking out for you, right? But often in a business setting, you're taking a lot for granted, assuming everyone knows you, knows all of your quirks, knows all of your strengths and weak. The lazy part is right there,
Mm-hmm.
which is why to me it's so important to communicate effectively. And Zach, I'm talking about tweaks and pivots and shifts. I'm not talking about anything seismic. That's why to me it's so important, because you wouldn't have to spend years working on improving your communication
Yeah. No,
or
100%,
optimizing
absolutely.
your communication. You wouldn't need to, but you need
Mm-hmm.
to do it.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, and also communications and everything. Your posts, your
Mm-hmm.
content, how you carry
Yep.
yourself, how you dress.
Mm-hmm.
It's all that kind of stuff. Not that you have to go buy a nice suit like you, but it's all.
Well, I'm here.
You're always
I'm going
communicating.
to be on your show. Like I
You're
said, I'm going to get
always.
all dialed up.
I love it. So let's talk more about you. How did you get to
Sure.
doing? Because you that's not the executive coaching is not all you do,
No,
right? So
no,
how did you get to that?
yeah. So I was in broadcast ad sales and sales management for over 25 years. And I had the privilege to work with some really strong companies. And so I got to do a lot. I was in these situations that I'm speaking of. I was in all of them. That was one of the things that I feel grateful for, is that I have the literal hands-on experience. And so as that career winded down, I had been getting like suggested a lot I should use my voice more. And I was pushed back. No, I'm the sales guy. I'm the management guy. Nope, 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 nope. I hated the sound of my own voice. Hated it. So I'm like, nope, nope, nope. So as that job wound down, I just had this nagging thought, which was, well, what if they're right? So I leave corporate. This is 2019. I started the company, which was primarily at the time a voiceover company. I was just going to go all in and do voice work and audition and all that kind of stuff, and hired coaches and bought all the fancy microphones and all that sort of stuff, right? And did. And then things start to morph, and that's the nice part about just having the gratitude to pay a little bit of attention. So I remember working with a high performance coach. I remember saying to him, I literally wanted to sever my history because I only wanted to be known as a voiceover person. So I washed out all my social profiles. I'm a voiceover person. Aren't you the one that was in program? I'm a voiceover person. And so that was what I wanted to do. So I go all in, so to speak. Not the best strategic move that you could make, as I learned, but that's what I did. And then as I continued to talk to former colleagues and clients and things like that, there was this thing where the coaching aspect came. I started to get clients. I realized, for God's sake, just like with your personal life, it's be true to you. And so it's like, this is what I've done to get there. And as I've promoted a lot, as I've networked a lot, as I've made a lot of friends and contacts, I got the chance to do some public address announcing, which is a blast for me. So I've done high school football, basketball, soccer. I just recently was the PA announcer for the Philly Bike Ride, where over 5,000 cyclists compete, and I got to do the, like I said, the send off, the start, and then the post game party. That's such a rush for me, and I never ever saw that coming, never. So just opening up your mind a little bit, saying yes to a couple of things where I was deathly afraid of the first high school basketball game I did, like petrified, and was like, oh, like, you know, and I am a sports fan. So it wasn't like that, but that's a lot of pressure, right? You know, and it took me probably, honestly, the first time, the majority of the first half to get comfortable. I remember the second half felt like it took place in 3 minutes, you know, and it was like, so that occurred. I've gotten to speak in front of audiences, and that's been a blast for me. That's an incredible gift for me, is that I get to, like, I was the host MC for several events, a couple of them a bunch of high-powered realtors, and I was the host and MC of a couple of awards banquets. And I remember the first time I was speaking to Josh Buchter, if you're listening. I love this guy, and he's the one that gave me that first speaking opportunity. And I got to speak in front of hundreds of people, and likewise, I remember, and I'm all dolled up in a tux and all that sort of thing, and they were knockoff of the Academy Awards at a cool place in Philadelphia. And it was just one of these things where you just keep your mind open. I was meeting up with my friend Josh, and we were having coffee, and I liked what he did on social media, but I wasn't pitching anything. And really, what I was trying to do is more like behind the scenes, like I want to do some voiceover work and blah blah blah. And he's like, "Well, we're looking for a host MC." I'm like, "Oh no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying," he's like, "No, I'm looking for a host MC, and I think you could do it. Would you be willing?" Okay. So sure. And said yes. Scared to death. I can still remember a half hour before the event, petrified. Petrified. So if anyone thinks like everyone, like, I just got it, you know, it's like I get nerves still before every big presentation. Doesn't bother me at all now, but it bothers me in that moment where I'm like a basket case, and there was way more people than I was expecting, and the room went way further back, and I'm on a huge stage, and I just remember, like, back to the preparation. Josh, were communicating for a couple of months, pronouncing names and, you know, and flow and sequence and all that stuff. And then a half hour later, all my quirks and doubts and insecurities are coming up. You're a fraud. You're not going to remember anything, blah, 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 you know? And I was going to bring up note cards, and they're handing me note cards, and I'm writing on them. And then it was about 5 minutes before I just took some deep breaths. It's one of these things that I preach to people. Literally, it's like, look, take some, I use a Navy SEALs breathing technique. I have zero experience in Navy SEALs, anything, but the breathing technique surely worked. And it just focused, threw the cards away, and rolled. And it was such a great experience. I've gotten to do it a few more times since. And it's a beautiful way to serve a client, serve an audience, and to connect. To me, there's nothing like that literal connection with people, looking into their eyes, feeling the energy, being able to articulate. And that's where, like I said, it's like I don't dismiss preparation. I killed myself for a couple of months in terms of making certain I knew everything. The key is just put yourself in the frame of mind so that all of that work isn't wasted. And that's what happened. So I've had the chance to do that, speak to some companies, and all of that to say is, and I still get to do voiceover work too, which is really cool for me.
Yeah, that's a really great testament to just do. This is what I say. This is a very oversimplification, but just do stuff. Like, say yes to stuff.
Yep.
Like, just we complicate it. Like, go find your why first. Like, sure, find out why. Like, what are you fighting for? Like, where do you want to be? Who do you want to be? All that kind of stuff. Figure that out, sure, but get to the how as quick as possible.
Yep.
Right. don't, so many people are just, they're stuck on the why. Well, why am I doing this? Why am I here? And then you dwell on that long enough, all of a sudden you're a victim because you can't figure out your why, and then you don't figure out how to do anything, therefore you don't do anything. Where you just got to try stuff, just do stuff,
Just try stuff.
just like saying yes to presenting, and just figuring it, just trust yourself enough to figure it out. Have you been in a situation before where you've had to figure something out and you've come out okay? If the answer is yes, then you've done this before. It
The
might not
answer
be
is
the
exactly
specific
right.
thing, right? You might not done this specific thing speaking in front of people, but you've done something uncomfortable that you had to figure it out. Therefore you can. And that's where it's interesting, because I had a similar experience, I guess. Or I made the same decision, was to eliminate my past, because it's not in line, it's not directly in line with my future. So I had social accounts with, tens of thousands of people on it and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, no, it's not who I am, screw it, delete everything, which
Right. You
I
just
now
blow it up
also
and
I now also regret. But you have to give,
I got
you
you.
have to allow yourself, and I think we said it on your podcast, you have to allow yourself to give your past credit for the success that you A, have, and B, are going to have, right? Because a lot of this stuff, that's all the evidence that you've done it before. Again, not
That's
specific,
exactly right.
different words, but you've done the soft skills, you've had to learn, you've had to overcome, you've failed, got up, all that kind of good stuff.
I love
right?
that, man. I love it. And by the way, to amplify that point, it's one of the things, that's one of the techniques that I've literally used, which is this. I combine that Navy SEALs breathing technique and what I've been able to use and share, which is, and I leverage it. So I'm not a science guy. Terrible in science in high school and college. Terrible. So I don't want to pretend I'm a scientist. But here's the geeky science that the person that has worked with me is a trained, licensed, very successful psychologist. His name is Joseph Dowling, and he wrote a book called Zonefulness. He also happens to be my therapist, which is how I met him, right? So that he now coaches college. He is the part of the University of Pennsylvania men's and women's basketball team. He's on the bench with the player. Like I said, he's one of the coaches. And this is all about mindset. And he works with Rutgers. He worked in the NFL for a brief time. And so here's what he shared with me, and I suggest with everybody. You just identified it, which I love, which is, in addition to the breathing, I call this, he suggested it and I've stolen it, which is calling it, it's your body of evidence. So you've done something cool in your life. You've done something that you were proud of. And does it have to be an exact linear thing? No. In fact, absolutely no. And everyone's, what's the cool thing that you identify with? And don't have to overthink this, nor do you have to rank them or come up with the best. Just come up with anything in a moment where you're uncomfortable. And for me, I've used it and I like it. And if you watched me do that in Berlin, Germany, you wouldn't have been all that impressed. But it's like I ran a marathon. And so I'm in Berlin, Germany, running a marathon. Has nothing to do with a presentation. It has nothing to do with closing a business deal or coaching clients. But what I remembered was this sense I'm pretty slow. And like I said, I'm the guy typically when you run marathons, they come over and pat me on the head and say, good for you. And I know what that means. And I know what that means. Right. But whatever. So I'm running, and there's at one point where I'm literally by myself in another country. Right. And I don't speak the language. And there's maybe a handful of runners, because we're kind of the old cliche, bringing up the rear. And that kind of was true. Right. And so, but I remember thinking, for a moment, as I got close, and you knew where the finish line was, because they're saying, now I realize, and you start to see, and you're like, oh, it's right there. This spectacular feeling, like, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe I get to cross this finish line. I don't care what place it is. I don't care what time, the length, nothing. I can still remember the song that was playing. I can still remember the fact I'm starting to like tear up when I'm starting to go across. And that's what I remembered, like the night when I gave that speech. And everything got easy. So the body of evidence part is, pick something cool that you've done. Don't get in the way of it. No, that's not good enough. Or no, Zach's is better. Or no. See, he's won awards. Or don't get in the way of it. Just, was this cool? And as you're breathing, it puts a real sense of confidence, or I've earned this seat at the table, or standing, giving a speech, whatever. That and that's to me the tangible proof. And that's what you were saying earlier. And I love that you say that, because what's so powerful is in the 16 seconds that I take to do the box breathing, and I'm thinking about, oh my God, Pink, it was a Pink song, and we're crossing, blah, blah, blah. You're done. In 16 seconds, you're done. And then everything else becomes more doable. And that's, to me, like I said, which I'd encourage anybody, which is just really remember you've done things in your life. And I'll steal your line. Just try stuff. Just do stuff.
Absolutely. And it varies by kind, not by degree, because again, the worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you, and the best thing that's ever happened to you, or the best thing you've ever accomplished is the best thing you've ever accomplished, right?
Right.
So I mean, to your point, like you're comparing, like, oh, it's not, I haven't won awards, or I haven't done this or that kind of stuff. Yeah, but you've done something, right? And I've worked with a client who he's starting a business. He used to be a welder, right? And one of his really proud moments was when he got his journeyman. Right. Well, some people are like, oh, your journeyman, you got your journeyman and your welder. Like, in his head, he's like, oh, it's not like I didn't win the Stanley Cup or whatever it is. Yeah, but how proud were you in that moment? It's like, man, I never thought I'd be able to accomplish something like that. Like it was like 4 years or 5 years or something like that. And, it was this much work. I went through a divorce and all, whatever. I had to overcome a lot to be able to do it. I was like, so how proud were you in that moment? Like, how did you feel? How confident were you? Like, what? And like, to your point, there's a Pink song playing. There was, what did it smell like? What did the room look like? Right? Like, we all favor one, whether it's the auditory, visual, or kinesthetic, right? We all favor one. So like, feel, see, smell, hear, like, what is it when you were there? And then you again, whether it's box breathing or whether you find an anchor point in the floor and you kind of put all that confidence in that point in the floor, whatever your technique works better for you. Right. And put yourself in that moment before you go into a meeting, before you go into an interview, before you have to talk to a client, you're going to a sales call, right? Or whatever it is, right? You're going to parent teacher interviews, whatever work, whatever you need it to do.
Put yourself all in.
Yeah.
Do what you have to do. I'm doing this intentionally for a reason. It's like to get this out of your head, to get whatever that last email that you had to read that was so desperately important as you're running into the parent-teacher meeting. And now you're like, oh, and now you're like, okay. And this is in your head. And it's like, and now you're distracted and you're not all in. So whatever it happens to be, it's like, give yourself the privilege to be all in, because that's really what people remember. That's really what they're remembering. It is rare that they're thinking, oh my God, I loved the background colors of this PowerPoint slide. They were amazing. And when Zach got to page 72, it was so, they don't. Or at least they'll attempt to know it if they can feel your energy. And that's what you're trying to do, So that's like I said, the gift that when I see it in other people, I respond. It's a blast for me. It's not just who I'm working with. I mean, whenever I see, that they're all there.
No, absolutely. What do you think the difference is? We're talking about just entrepreneurs. The difference is between a business owner founder that focuses on their communication and focuses on their mindset, like their subconscious, their ability to manipulate their subconscious sort of thing. The difference between a co-founder that focuses on that and a co-founder that just focuses on skills and software and that that point of it, the tactics, right? What do you think the big difference is?
Well, again, the big difference is you got to feel something to get somebody to do something. You can pull all the science and the tactical, the tech, you know what I mean? And here's your manual of 12,000 features and benefits. But if I don't care, I don't do it. And I'm not alone. You got to feel something to do something. So how do you get somebody to actually feel something? Is it, hey, look, I'm going to read all this to you now and let you see that people make more time for when they feel something. All of a sudden, I only got a minute. or that sense of 3 seconds on social media, all of a sudden it's like, why are you playing around with cat videos for 4 hours? But 5,000 things that could possibly benefit you, like, nah,
Yeah.
they ain't feeling anything. Now, am I saying throw cats into your account? No. In fact, please don't. But but what I am saying is, you take yourself out, because, as I alluded to before, I go through social media now, and literally, it's like everyone is an entrepreneur. If you're jaded, right? They're not. But I'm just saying, everybody's an entrepreneur. Everyone's a coach. Everyone's got a coaching product. Everyone has got a last minute opportunity. Everyone is going to help you increase your sales. Well, if that was really true, and if you really felt that, you'd probably make better decisions. But I don't give most of them a chance because I feel nothing. And again, as I said, you're just trying to put that bridge. It's that gateway, that bridge. You need somebody to feel something. And again, I'm not a believer. I never was. I was the geeky bookwormy type growing up. So I was the one that overcompensated by, studying harder and being better, because I wasn't confident with myself at the time. But the fact of the matter is, it's like, I'm not saying don't have the technical know-how. All I'm saying is, you got to have a chance. You have to be given the chance to share it. But throwing bullet points and benefits, and it's I feel bad, because you're not even being given the forum to do it, because nobody's feeling anything. But when you feel something, if somebody feels something, they often will do something. Give you a chance. So what are you talking about, Zach? So show me. Give me, you know what I mean? What are those? Because I think, oh, he's cool. I like him. I was told for years, and it used to really bristle me, and I'm grateful that I've now grown to appreciate it. He's got a lot of energy. In my head, being like not having a lot of confidence, I took that as code for, oh, he's too frenetic. He's too, So I took it always as an insult. My issues. You have a good voice. No, I don't. You have a lot of energy. No, I don't. Thank God I've worked on myself personally. So you can take that part, feel comfortable, true with yourself. But I believe that's the difference. It's like, give yourself a chance to be heard. Know what the technical benefits are, because when they are there and it's like, oh, they're cool. Tell me more. And there's your gateway.
100%. It's the difference between knowing what to do and then getting people bought in to execute doing it. If you don't have, you can have all the technical skills, and this is where it's kind of unfortunate. You see a lot of it, in the ads, especially this time of year with New Year's coming up. You see a lot of it in the ads or in the highlight reels and all this kind of stuff. And people, both of our industries, really, is it's all, how to increase sales, how to improve your marketing, how to get a better ROI here, how to get 10,000 leads in your pipeline now, which is all great. You have to do it, because you have to.
Yes.
But you get to the point now where you have a team, and you have all these tools and systems and processes and all that kind of stuff. How do you consistently get them to execute and improve upon these processes, right? And so you can be take yourself out of the equation, and B, ultimately be more successful, so you can move on to other things and be more creative. But if you don't have that, if you don't get the ability to unite people and get them to understand and improve and develop and to get the outcome that you want, it's all useless. You're just wasting your money. And that's where you see so many and so many of these things, they work for a short amount of time, because everyone's excited. Oh, we got a new CRM, or we got a new sales pipeline, or whatever it is. We got a new script, and it's great to start. But if they're not bought into why you're doing it, or if they don't fully understand, if you're not communicating with them in a way that makes them understand, they understand the outcome, how to do it, and they know why they're doing it, then they're not going to do it, at least for a long period of time. So you get these people that are doing this all the time. It's frustrating. But that's why we do what we do.
That's it. So it took me a while to get clear with my own message. So I get it and can relate. like in these 4 years where things have changed and morphed, and I told you that I'm literally cutting my arm off of the broadcast ad sales, and oh no, he's voiceover, oh he's real estate.
Yeah.
It's it doesn't mean you can't, as you line, do stuff or try stuff. It doesn't mean that. It simply means, again, you're competing with a lot of people. And it's not like it would be great if you were the only one that happened to be on social media. You're not. And so one more rendition of increasing sales, or here's my CRM. It's great. So you can send me more prepared chat GPT emails that have no heart and body. I'm using them too. But the fact of the matter is, I ain't pointing fingers, but it is what I am saying is no heart, no soul, no shot.
Yeah.
How do you give yourself a shot with your great content and your technical ability? Because for God's sake, do it, because you need to be ready, right? When somebody says, "Oh, I like that," I like their energy. They seem cool, because ultimately it's going to get to, all right, so what do you got? And you still have to be prepared. You still have to know the nuances of whether it's the software or the capabilities or the, so as I said, you're literally setting the table for all of the prep that you've done.
You'll never get there if you can't communicate it.
Exactly. And you're not replacing it, because you got to be ready. You got to be ready. Somebody's like, okay, speak. Like what happens to me, it's like after that speaking thing. And as I said, the first time, and I'll just repeat, you got to be ready. Second time, for the same group, but in a different venue and all that stuff. And I'm speaking and I'm the host MC again and all that sort of thing. And this is where I'm saying you got to be ready. In that case, there were technical difficulties that are going on. I also happened to have done the voiceover for all the narrations. So now if you're in the audience, I'm thinking, God, it's a lot of John Duffin that you have to hear, but that's all right. It's not my issue. So I'm speaking, and then they do the and then it's the voiceover, and that's me again. So they're having technical difficulties where the audio is not syncing up to the video, and the video is just randomly playing and all that sort of thing. And we've got another presenter up there, and they're like, I don't. And I remember saying, you solve a problem by being ready. And I just remember, I said, give me the mic. So I had known all of the categories, because again, I'm 3 months of back and forth with the host. Yeah. Knowing all their names, knowing how to pronounce all their names, knowing the sequencing. I'm just like, give me the mic. And I literally was standing off to the side, just reading them into the microphone, just saying them out loud as the video was going. And we got through. And we got through. And none of the people that were nominated for awards were embarrassed, because I was announcing them literally in real time. And the only way that I could do that was the preparation, knowing the going back and forth with the organizer. Do you want it said like this? Do you want it done like that? Is this the flow? So that's how we solved a major problem. Clients are happy. The audience is cool. Everything moved to what was the inevitable positive conclusion, which was so that they could all eat and drink in peace. But
it's usually the conclusion.
Right? But you got to get there. And so rather than a bunch of Irish goodbyes, hey, this is a drag, I got to get out of here. You know what I mean? That it was like, we got through. And if you're in a corporation or if you're an entrepreneur, again, inevitably, what you need is the ability to know your capabilities, to know how you can customize and personalize it to the individual, the company you're speaking with. But you need the bridge to get there. Otherwise, you just sound like everybody else.
I'm going to leave it at that. John, what's the next summit that you're chasing?
Heck, I love that. So for me in 2024, I'll give you the one, like I said. So the summit is speaking to larger audiences, number one, in two ways, which is number one, it's such a rush to speak live. I get to share personal parts of me. I get to, speak to individuals. I get to move people, and there's nothing like it. So number one, it's to be on stages. The summit I'm chasing, to be speaking on stages of we'll say 5,000 people for this coming year. That's the summit I'm chasing. 5,000 or greater, right? And then the other is to be aligned with Fortune 500 companies that are literally their executive teams, their coaching teams, because this is not something that needs to be done on a one-on-one. It works great on a one-on-one basis. But in my heart, I really believe that there are companies in need. And as economics change and as opportunities either rise or fall, the fact of the matter is you don't want to get caught short. So the summit I'm chasing, working with Fortune 500 companies, people are letting go training. They're letting go communications. And my thought is, as a fractional leader, that's what I'm able to do. That's where I can stop. I can either solve a problem, stop a crisis, or help people to propel and exceed, which is really the goal.
I love it. Well, hopefully we can share a stage, because that's one of my goals too this year, is to get on some bigger stages. So let's
I'd be honored.
We'll talk about
so
that.
Let's make it happen. Heck, let's make it happen.
Well,
right?
Might as well. Why not?
Exactly.
All right. I love everything that you're doing. We've had multiple conversations, multiple hour-long conversations. This won't be the last time we do one of these, but I just want to say thank you so much for being on, being a friend, being somewhere. I'm sure that we're going to collaborate. We're going to figure out how to collaborate one way or the other.
I know we will.
100%. You got a minute or two? Where can people find you?
Oh,
how can you help people? All that kind of stuff.
I love all that stuff. So first off, I honor and acknowledge you. Really feel lucky. I could feel the energy of you, Zach. So it has been a privilege so far. And I do believe, not cliches, we're just getting started. So folks, the easiest way, I just make it easy. So my website, which has all my social profiles and podcast links and all that sort of thing, is Duffin Media, Duffin, duffinmedia.com. It's the easiest way to get at me. Ways to contact me. Again, as I said, you want to hear my podcast, you want to hear Zach, which I'm very grateful about on my show, you want to hear some other way cool people, that's where you find me. Duffinmedia.com is the easiest. And then that way, again, contact, social, podcast, speaking engagements, coaching opportunities, everything's there.
Beautiful. And we will link all that below. John, it was an absolute pleasure. Can't wait to keep this relationship going.
Heck yeah. Thank you so much, Zach. Honest to God, it felt great. So I'm honored, and I really appreciate you too, man.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Summit Chasers podcast. I really hope that you enjoyed, you were inspired, you learned something that you can use to go and chase whatever your next summit may be. Be sure to like and comment your takeaways from the episode below. Also, follow us on all social media platforms under Summit Chasers Network. And if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to turn on your notifications so you can be notified when we drop new content like how-to videos, business best practices, motivation, and personal development strategies. And until next time, keep chasing your summit. I'll see you on the next one.